Can somebody please tell Donald Duck to put some pants on? My kids are getting to that age where they're starting to ask me a million different questions, and I feel like it's just a matter of time before they ask me why Donald Duck doesn't wear pants out in public, okay? Think of the children, Disney, please. But anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video because we're about to get dead serious. Well, as dead serious as you can get about Disneyland itself, which is not very serious, okay? It's the happiest place on earth. Be happy, smile, okay? If not, Mickey Mouse will escort you out himself. But seriously, I wanted to talk about Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railroad, which is probably one of the most intriguing rides at Disneyland. And I don't even know where to start. I mean, this is one of the most interesting rides there. If you're in the standby line, you'll notice that sometimes the wait time can be as long as like 90 minutes. Not only is it extremely popular, it doesn't have any height restrictions, but it constantly breaks down. And this is something that I think Disneyland definitely needs to take a look at. What's crazy is how new the technology is to Disney theme parks. This ride officially opened here in Disneyland on January 27th of 2023. So the ride has only been available for about a couple of years, and yet it's run into so many different issues. Now, the ride itself, the queue is absolutely phenomenal. You get a ton. By the way, this is a trackless dark ride. If you guys are into those type of rides, I think this is right up your alley. The queue is absolutely amazing. It's essentially kind of like dropping you into the universe of like an animated theater. You're gonna get essentially a bunch of like parody posters that mirror a lot of Disney projects, but they put the Mickey Mouse spin on them. You also get a lot of really cool props. So you're essentially looking at the props as if you were in Toontown, which is a really nice touch. And then throughout, you'll find just really cool like wardrobes, costumes. You'll find little accessories here and there that are really cool. Some of the posters are actually based on some of the episodes from the new animated shorts from Paul Reddish. If you guys are not familiar with who Paul Reddish is, I definitely suggest you guys dig a little bit deep, because if you grew up in my era of like Cartoon Network, I'm sure that you have come across some of his work, but you just didn't know it. He did work on some of the biggest heavy hitters on Cartoon Network during that time frame. For example, he worked on Samurai Jack. He worked on Dexter's Laboratory. He also worked on the Powerpuff Girls. And you can definitely feel that that experience definitely paid off, not just throughout the ride, but also during the queue. Another absolutely insane fact is that he also worked on that 2003 animated Clone Wars limited series. And it's crazy because then eventually, as we know, Disney would eventually end up actually purchasing LucasArts or Lucasfilms, and all of that would fall under the Disney umbrella. And then eventually we would get Galaxy's Edge. So it's kind of interesting the way that everything perfectly tied together. Now, in case you guys are wondering, the Florida iteration actually opened up way before the Disneyland version or the California version. That one opened up on March 4th of 2020. And so they've had a much larger window to work with. And so that definitely gives them a huge advantage over the Disneyland park. Having said all of that, as amazing as Toontown is, and we're all very familiar with the landscape there, it's absolutely breathtaking. It's very engrossing. Every single little corner seems to have something to offer. Every little section of the land seems to offer a great little backdrop for some amazing photos and breathtaking memories. But it feels like the fact that this ride is constantly breaking down, it's constantly causing a ton of mayhem, I think it definitely holds this land back from its full potential, especially considering this is a land that feels somewhat like a dead end. I've often floated around the idea that they should have a small little path that potentially connects Toontown to Galaxy's Edge somehow. I feel like that would really help funnel some guests out of Toontown and into other areas of the park. But unfortunately, it feels like there's just a massive amount of people that are trapped in there or that are trying to slowly find their way out. But unfortunately, unfortunately, because of the congestion that usually happens in that area, I feel like more often than not, it's almost impossible to walk around. There are times when you feel like people are just taking your oxygen. They're taking your breath, and I'm not sure if that was by design to really like keep people in that area and to keep some of the congestion down in other areas of Disneyland, but I think all of that essentially convolutes into just this chaotic mess. And I feel like if they were to just pour a little bit of time and effort into this particular ride, I think it would really help with getting people in and out of the area at a much higher pace. If you were able to have a slight little path where you didn't have to return through the entrance to get out of Toontown, and then if you were able to fix Mickey's Railroad, I think that would definitely help speed things up. And as I mentioned, I think it's an absolutely beautiful ride. The facade, the queue, everything is absolutely phenomenal. And obviously, I'm not going to really get into Toontown too much, but if you guys have been there, you know exactly what I'm referring to. It's just a breathtaking experience. But I feel like this entire situation, this entire ordeal is really holding the land back from reaching its full potential. And also, on a side note, this particular property or this land actually opened up at Disneyland all the way back in 1993, and it wasn't originally supposed to be based on the Mickey Mouse universe. It was supposed to be based on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was a film way back in the 80s. Now, some things have been rethemed, some things have been added, taken away, and so since then, it's definitely gone through quite a bit of a transformation. But you would assume because they've had such an extended period of time that they would have been able to fix some of those issues. But unfortunately, this area or this land is now going on 32 years, and they are still running into the same consistent issues that we've seen since opening day. Let's not forget the area was also closed during the pandemic. So like from 2020 to 2021, there were a ton of different renovations that took place on the land. And so it would only make sense that they would figure out those logistics during that time frame. But instead, all they really did was give it a facelift and retheme certain areas. And before we get any deeper into this, I must clarify, I'm not trying to bag on the area. If you guys have ever been to Disneyland, or if you plan on going, and if let's say you only have one day to explore the entire land, I definitely suggest you guys visit Toontown and try to ride Mickey's Railroad, because I feel like it's one of those places that you have to experience for yourself. The ride alone is absolutely phenomenal, but the way that everything is designed, the queues, the area in general, like there are so many different spots to make memories and to photograph and to just overall enjoy yourself. And this situation is very reminiscent of something else that we've noticed there at Disneyland. We have the same problem going on at Galaxy's Edge, where it's a beautiful, amazing, engrossing area. Just the aura overall is completely overwhelming. If it's your first time entering the area and you're a huge Star Wars fan, you can't help it but hold back those salty, disgusting tears. And I honestly feel like the Jurassic Park area at Universal Hollywood is kind of fairly similar. Like, it's breathtaking, the ride itself is phenomenal, and there is another little section where you can continue to immerse yourself in the Jurassic universe. Not to mention there's a little gift shop as well as a small little restaurant, but it still feels small. It feels self-encapsulated. It feels weird that you have areas like Harry Potter and The Simpsons and Super Nintendo that are fleshed out, and there's just much more to explore, and the Jurassic universe just feels like it's getting cheaped out a little bit. Those sections are absolutely beautiful, especially if you're a huge fan of those particular franchises, but it does feel like they can do a little bit extra. It feels like they can rough out the edges, and I think it's about time, especially considering these sections or these areas in these particular theme parks have been around for quite some time now. However, I did already make an entire video where I broke down my problems with Galaxy's Edge. If you guys are interested in listening to me rant on about more Disneyland goodness, I'll put a link in the description, or I'll throw up the thumbnail on the screen. But regardless, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As I mentioned previously, this is kind of a little bit of a side project. This isn't my main channel, although I would like to upload way more consistently here. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you guys are interested in listening to me me ramble on about other Disneyland topics. We do have a decent catalog of videos, and I'm hoping that it continues growing within the next few months. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.